Hey mamas, it's me, Katie. It is Thursday and I am here actually out in Glendale. I came out to one of the properties that I have under contract with a buyer of mine, and we are here getting our home inspection. So we have a live and learn today with Nick from Alati's Home Inspections. I'm gonna bring Nick in. Say hello to the ladies, Nick.
Hello ladies, how are you doing today?
So Nick is here. He is our awesome preferred home inspector here at Team Evo, and he has just finished inspecting this beautiful home here in Glendale for us, and he's got a couple of kind of scary-ish things he'd like to point out. Nick, take it away. What do we got here?
Well, can we just start outside real quick?
Let's start outside.
Awesome.
I gotta put my sunglasses on.
So we live in Arizona, and we have very expansive soil. So it's like the sponge on a countertop. You let it sit there for a couple of days and it dries out. We go 110, 120 days without rain, so that sponge gets really dry. Our soil just dries out. Then we get a flash of rain and it swells up like that sponge. And in doing so, we need to maintain drainage. When we were children and there was a puddle, we stuck our finger in a puddle, we drew a line and it went downhill. So what we did here, if you notice the grade, it's hard to tell probably in a video, but it's going uphill to the gate, but then we built that cement dam and we put pavers there to even increase the value of the dam. So we stopped the water flow from flowing to the street. We're supposed to go from the back wall all the way to the street. So there's no way to get that magic water ladder and get the water up there without a pump or some sort of means of mechanical means of getting the water out of there. So what I'm going to recommend is a rain gutter across the roof, dumping it into the front yard on the other side of the dam, and just put it to the street.
Because what's happening is the water is pooling up against the house, correct?
Water's pooling against the house, and then it wicks underneath because we're ponding, and it saturates, and that sponge swells up. When the sponge swells, when the soil swells, it causes our concrete to crack. So if we go inside, the highlight or to prove the fact, if we're looking at the flooring, we have about 1.5 inches from the floor to the top of the baseboard there, and it's about 1/2 inch higher there, and about at the other end it's another 1/2 inch higher.
Can you see that, mamas? See that gap there?
Actually goes uphill. So there's a hump in the floor. It goes pretty much straight across from the flooded area on that side, and we didn't look on the west side, but the same thing occurred. We built a sidewalk, concrete sidewalk, and blocked off all the water. So the water's wicking in the center here. Soil swells, the concrete cracks, it has no choice. So we have a hump in the middle of this floor.
So we have a hump, and it's also causing some other issues too. So we got some gaps there, but there's some issues up by these windows too, correct?
So what happens normally when drywall moves, it cracks. You can see the little cracking. People try to repair cracks. I always recommend not to repair it because it looks like a scar, if you can see that or not.
Yeah,
but it looks like scarring. But when it continues to move, then we get buckling. I don't know if you can see that, but it's actually buckling there. It's been repaired on this side. It's hard to see, but that's been buckled and repaired. And then the same thing here at the very top, here and at the top has been repaired. There's a different texture. So right about here, coming down across, that's a different texture than the rest of the house. So that's been fixed. So this has been an ongoing problem for some time. And to hide it or to mask it or to solve it, they put the wood floor on it floats.
Oh, okay.
If we also look where we join the kitchen to the living room, if you look close enough, you can see there's almost 1/2 inch, 3/8 of an inch height difference between the floor in the kitchen and the floor in the living room.
Yep.
Because this is actually tapering downhill. You can kind of see right there.
Yep, totally. So now, some cracking is normal, is that correct?
Yes. And after 2006, we started using post-tension slab. 38,000 pounds of pressure pushing the concrete together. My little character here, actually, you could almost do that with post-tension. You could lift up a corner of the house. Or this is called a monolithic pour. We just put some rebar down and we poured a bunch of concrete. Gravity holds it in place. Well, when the water gets underneath and the expansive soil expands, it causes a lifting and the concrete's brittle and it cracks. It's got a lot of tensile strength, so it'll push down on it. It's got a lot of tensile strength, but it's brittle as far as lifting and cracking. So
So I know there's a few cracks in my house as well, but nothing like this. So if we have some moms walking around their place and they start seeing some buckling like in these stress areas, is that
it's not
potentially a problem?
No. It just normal. If you see cracking, it's not light your hair on fire and run around in circles. It's when you see buckling, when you can actually see, that should highlight it a little bit. When the drywall buckles out like that, that's movement.
Okay.
That's continuous movement. And it's been fixed a couple of times. And there again, over in that side there, you can see they replaced, well, I can tell where they replaced a 18-inch by maybe 3-foot section of drywall. The texture is different, so that had buckling going on over there too.
Wow, probably a lot worse than that, huh?
Now the other thing I'm noticing, if you look, this register is kind of closed. If we go into this bathroom, this register is closed. And then the laundry room register is closed.
Oh yeah.
What that indicates normally is that there's hot spots and cold spots in the house. So there's a nice Train 3.5-ton unit on the roof. It's a 2013. It's the newer Freon, so the unit itself is fine. It's the older style house. We have single glazed windows with aluminum frames.
So those are hot.
So the best way to conduct cold and heat, to take the heat and suck the cold, is using gold, and we're not going to make windows out of gold frames, but the second best is aluminum, and the fifth is glass. When we have the dual pane, we have that break between it. It's called a thermal break, and that half-inch gap actually stops the heat transference. The newer windows are vinyl, so we eliminate the heat transference from the vinyl. If I get my thermal image,
Ooh, the thermal image. This is fun.
I can just use an IR, an infrared temperature gauge. But if we look at the window and the frame, typically the frames, it's 108 degrees on the frame right now. And what's it, 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, it's only like 91 degrees outside.
So that frame, 94.
So it's been sitting in the sun.
Right,
For,
145 right there.
holy smokes.
So we're just transmitting heat into the home. So instead of adjusting the registers and making one room cold, one room hot, this is a very small room with a lot of glass. If we change out the windows to a dual pane with the low E, the green tint, the vinyl frames, it'll actually make that room comfortable. Same thing with this. You can see it's 104 to 145 degrees depending on where you touch the frame.
Mm-hmm.
Picture a bedroom with the northwest exposure in the summer months. You know, the bedroom gets warm. Simply changing out a window can not maybe save you $1,000 a year in electrical bills, but it make the room comfortable.
A lot more comfortable. Quality of life, people.
Right.
So you realize that there's an issue in this particular home, not with the unit itself, but with what?
Well, the ductwork in the attic, it's 1987 built, and we had this Goodman product. It was designed for North Dakota, actually, and we put it in Arizona. Our attics get 160 degrees, 140 degrees, and the outside wrapping, the plastic vinyl wrapping, actually falls off. The only thing holding the insulation in place is the outside wrapping, so it actually falls off, and then we have just a clear tube. So we have that Goodman ducting up in the attic here. Some of it's been replaced, but that's part of the problem. The main problem I see is going to be the windows.
Gotcha. And is that fairly typical in this age home?
It's definitely typical.
Okay.
They used to say it doesn't snow in Arizona, so we don't need thermal windows. Yeah, but it doesn't get 150 degrees in North Dakota either.
That's true. Very, very true.
Right.
Was there anything else about this particular home that you thought was quite interesting?
Interesting.
Or an issue?
Well, actually, pigeons. We have a lot of pigeons in this neighborhood. And we have a shingle roof. And the pigeon droppings, it's an acidity to it that decays the coating of the shingles. So in this particular case, we need to actually go up there and wash the roof.
I didn't know that.
It's
about
just,
the
it
droppings.
eats away at the shingles, and the shingles are a waterproofing system. It's a fairly new roof. It's a nice looking roof, but there's a lot of pigeon droppings.
Gotcha. And that is asphalt shingle, correct?
Asphalt shingles, yes.
Okay, so it wouldn't be the same for like a tile roof,
No, not at all.
but more so for the
A
asphalt.
good BB gun on a tile roof.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. So are there any other things that maybe didn't come up in this particular home, but that come up often that our mama should watch out for?
Existing homes or new construction?
Let's go with both. You pick.
Yesterday I did a brand new home. It's being built. The buyers hired me to do a framing inspection, a pre-drywall, the plumbing, electrical, and then a final. So I was out yesterday, And we have a wall made out of wood with a wood siding, and it's called a shear wall. It keeps the walls from shifting. And we're required to have every so many inches a nail and a certain type and thickness of nail. But in between that, on the opposite, so if there's 2 sheets of plywood here, so I got my separation of my nails, and then in the other sheet there should be one in the center. I actually had 13 to 16 inch gaps between nails.
Whoa.
That the city inspector completely missed.
Whoa.
On multiple walls.
So just because your construction is new doesn't necessarily mean it's right.
They're short-handed right now. They're just taking anybody they can and put nails in the wall and put plumbing together. And, I spent yesterday 2 hours just looking at framing and plumbing issues. I found a sewer joint that didn't have glue, means it wasn't glued properly.
Oh my goodness! So that could be a messy
that
experience.
That would be stinky after a while, yeah. It's called the fart tube because the exhaust from the toilets go up through the ceiling and fart, the smell goes outside. But if it separates, then the smell's in the wall. And we've actually troubleshot that in the past and found separation in the.
That's really interesting. I've had a client in the past that had a smell in their house and could not figure out where it was coming from.
That's how this started. It started as environmental testing. They thought it was mold. And it turned out to be a separated fart tube, the exhaust from the toilet.
Interesting.
Yeah, so.
Huh. So what do moms have to watch out for in a resale home if they're just out looking at something that's already built and somebody's lived in for a few years?
It depends on the neighborhood, the expansive soil. Around Gilbert, the Gilbert Islands, we have very expansive soil in that area. Mm-hmm. If you get into some places in this area in Glendale, there's a huge problem with termites. We could have 26 colonies per acre of termites, and 250 to 500,000 termites in a colony. So they attack homes, so that's a pretty common thing. Older homes, block homes, people actually don't get termite inspection thinking it's block. Well, termites get inside the block, the cavity, and they get up in the attic to the wood, and there's 20 years worth of damage up there because nobody ever looked. 1980, mid-80s to 96, we had this plumbing called polybutylene.
Ooh, yes.
You would not be able to tell unless you're in the attic or you knew how to look for it in the wall sections, the fittings and stuff. There's just so many things. I could talk hours about what to look for. But the grading, seriously, is the number one thing. When you go to Home Depot, you're going to landscape and you buy this cute little tree that's the size of a quarter, and then it grows up to be a palm tree. I can show you another example. So because the tree is so small, we put it close to the wall. Look at this black wall. The tree grows up and it gets bigger and the roots get bigger.
And so this is a combination of growth, water, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, that's off by half an inch.
Quite a bit.
Now this wall could be disassembled and reassembled with the same components. It's a floating wall. It's designed to actually fail like this. But that's caused from the tree planted too close to a column.
Right, and so it's still a pain in the drain to have to fix that.
The fix is cutting the tree down.
Right. Interesting. So no matter what you're buying, no matter what you're looking at, it's important to get a home inspection.
Oh, definitely is important, yes.
Now, what about if you've been living in your house for 10 years and you have never, or maybe you had an inspection, but who knows what was on that? Do you do inspections for people who are not buying or selling their home?
Maintenance inspections are getting more and more common. People living there for more than 5 years typically have a maintenance inspection just to have a courtesy done of what's failing. This particular house, homeowner thought they'd save some money. They went to Home Depot and they bought a General Electric water heater. Well, General Electric proudly advertised on their tanks at 6 years, it says. Well, that's the life expectancy. Mm-hmm. The expensive ones are 9 years. If you buy a professional grade, 9 is the minimum and 12 is kind of the average. 15 is the expanded. Home Depot actually stopped selling General Electric and Lowe's stopped selling Whirlpool. And if you follow them both to China, they made the same assembly plant, but they just fail so fast. They only have a 6-year life expectancy.
And that could be like a we come home from vacation and it popped 3 days ago kind of situation.
And the neighbor shut the water off and there's a bunch of damage.
Yeah. So scary stuff.
Yeah, but that's a real common problem. Just because it's so much, $350 to go to Depot and buy it yourself, or $850 for the plumber. But the plumber, you're getting a professional grade water heater warranty.
Right.
Guaranteed pretty much guaranteed it's installed correctly. So, yeah.
So it's just not a good idea to cheap out on this stuff because at the end of the day, you're going to be paying more in time and energy and probably heartache.
Well, Home Depot and Lowe's both change their ways. Lowe's now carries A.O. Smith, which is one of the best rated, and Home Depot has now signed a Rheem product that's highly rated. The Rheem product at Home Depot now has a water sensor. If it senses moisture, it shuts itself down. So they're changing their ways too.
Oh, nice.
But that's 2016 and newer. So
right, it doesn't help the people
existing
before.
homes that are 5 or 6 years old, I would look in the garage and see if it says GE or Whirlpool, and maybe call a plumber and have that evaluated. Yeah. Another common thing, if you look over at this wall again, you see the white lines.
Yeah, what's that about?
That's efflorescence from the neighbors overwatering their side of the yard.
So it's actually not even this guy, it's the other guy.
Right. And that's causing decay in the block. And the walls will decay from the inside out.
Interesting.
And I'm sure you've seen it before. You can almost see through the wall.
Oh,
It's just like a
1,000 times.
cone hole.
Yeah.
And that's what causes that, is that moisture from the neighbor's yard.
So so possibly his sprinklers are pointing right at the wall?
Could be, or they have some soil there and they're watering some plants. I don't know. We could peek over the wall and see, but yeah, it could be sprinklers. Usually with sprinklers though, it's big. It's a big spray. You can see the
Right,
pattern.
I've seen that. Yep.
And it protrudes through just like this. But this is usually somebody with the discoloration like that. It's usually there's some soil up against the wall and they're
They're
watering.
just pounding water at
Yeah,
it.
you know what? It looks like they just sloped it and they have some plants there or something. Oh yeah, look, there's the plants.
Oh, hey. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
So I'm hearing a lot of water, 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 water,
Biggest
water,
thing in
water.
problem.
Keep
Biggest
water
problem in
away
Arizona.
from structures.
well, right now our grade, right now where you're standing is lower than the whole yard. We're supposed to go from that
sloping this
back
way.
wall to the street.
Right.
It's supposed to be our grade. When we buy a brand new house, since the 80s, we sign a document saying that we won't alter the grade. First thing we do is landscape. We just alter the grade. We put a tree in. We just alter the grade. But we got to remember, when we were kids and there was a puddle, we stuck our finger in it. We drew a line. We need to draw a line in that puddle and get it to the front yard. It's really simple
It's that
stuff.
simple. Yeah.
Unfortunately, now for this house, we need a structural engineer to come out and put a finger in the puddle line and figure out how to fix it. But it could be costly.
Is there anything else that the moms should know about that we haven't mentioned yet? Just in terms of home inspections and...
Not all home inspectors are created equally.
Ooh, good one.
There's home inspectors that do a hour-and-a-half inspection, and then there's more detailed inspectors. There's inspectors that are brand new out of school, and that's awesome. And there's experienced inspectors, so it depends a lot on the inspector.
Right, and brand new out of school, they haven't come across very much because they have to...
Not
Don't they have
experienced.
to shadow for a while as well?
30 parallel inspections, so they go find an inspector and work for free for 30 inspections.
But even 30 inspections, you're
No,
not going to
that's
come
not enough.
across that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't even bring you all over the valley.
You know what? When you're reading the inspection report, and the first thing in the report you notice that the dishwasher high loop is installed incorrectly. You know they have no idea what they're talking about because the manufacturers have been installing a high loop in the dishwasher since 1987. So it's an old problem that they still teach in school. So when they come out of school and they're talking about a high loop and they have a nice little picture, a schematic showing how to run the hose up by the sink and da-da-da, you know they don't have a clue what they're talking about because there again, the manufacturers have it built into the appliance now.
No.
So that's just one of the red flags that you see.
That's a funny one.
It is, but that's what I look for when I review the reports. I'm part of I belong to the Board of Registered Technical Registration Advisement Enforcement Committee. So when there's a complaint on a home inspector, I'm one of the people that review it and advise the state on actions to take or further actions to do.
Got to be kind of experienced to be able to hold that position,
Well,
huh,
when
my
you
friend?
see the high loop, then you read a little closer because you realize, well, they don't have a clue.
So if somebody had some questions for you about their home or about their home inspection, where could they find you?
You give Nicole a call at the office, and she should schedule a time for me to chat with you. It's alatisinspectionservice.com.
Awesome. And the phone number is?
480-507-2775.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick.
You're welcome. Have a great one.
Alrighty, moms. Well, that was a whole lot of informative, wasn't it? I saw Christina Sims come by and say that she'd always wondered what was going on with the white spots on the wall. I actually didn't know that either. I mean, I figured it was water because it looks like water, but that was a lot of awesome information. Also, what I really liked, and I know that this affects some of our moms in the group, is I really liked his suggestion about get a maintenance home inspection if you've lived in your property for a while. I know some people have lived in their home for 10 years and never even once thought about having somebody come by and check out all the systems and the roof system and just make sure that everything is operating up to snuff. Because the worst thing, the absolute worst killer of a vacation is that you come home after a week and there's a brand new skylight in your roof that you didn't order, okay? So call Nick at Alati's, call Nicole. We all know Nicole. They're super informative, super sweet. Customer service is top notch. I love these guys. I love you, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.